This is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome everyone to the Wandering Mike. Today I'm here with Luis Miguel. Hey Luis Miguel, how's it going?
Hey Mike, I'm going good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Good day so far. Weather's a little gray, but
Beautiful day, I'd say, honestly. I like it this way.
you didn't like it yesterday when it was super hot and
Fuck that. Wait,
everyone was going swimming and
am I allowed to say the F word and stuff?
yes, you can.
Okay, yeah, no, fuck that.
No, you're encouraged to actually.
Beautiful.
It's a podcast. We have no borders, no limitation.
Right on. Let's get to it. What's up, man?
Yeah, so to get us started, maybe you just want to start with introducing yourself to the people. Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us anything you want us to know about your journey in life so far.
Oh my god, that shit, I don't know how long you want this podcast to be. Well, my name is Luis Miguel, as you've already introduced. I'm 27 years old. I was born in San Luis Potosí, Mexico.
Mhm.
Um, for those of you English speakers, that's San Luis Potosí, Mexico.
Mhm.
Um, but I've spent a lot of time in lots of places, and I would say that my heritage is certainly given me uh the sense of belonging to different places. I wouldn't say that I'm Mexican, just Mexican.
Right.
I say always that I'm also Spanish because my family is Spanish and I've lived in Spain, and it's shaped my personality, my being, my traditions, and my way to see life. I've also lived in Houston, Texas, which
Mm.
is to some degree also impacted me a lot and also impacted the way that I approach life. I'm a lawyer, but I've left the suit and tie and I've
Mhm.
picked up the poles and the skis, and right now I'm a ski instructor. I'm getting my examiner certification as well, so hoping to be a ski examiner and trainer too.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's a little bit about me, just a little bit here and there.
Well, that actually in my head already had me asking a lot of questions.
Oh,
So I feel like we can get into some of that in more detail.
definitely.
Um, so firstly, you said you were grown up or you were born rather in Mexico,
Yeah.
being Spanish. So I don't know how long you spent in Mexico, but did that how did that feel for you being Spanish growing up in Mexico, if you get the question?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Well, I'm 100, well, not 100, but I'm fully Mexican as well.
Right.
So, um, my mom is 100% Mexican. My mom's family is 100% Mexican. It's my dad's family and and his parents that are Spanish. Well, I spent most of my early years, the whole of my childhood in living per se in Mexico, and I never considered myself as an outsider. Definitely, I would know that I have or I had a Spanish background and I had that Spanish heritage, and I started traveling to Spain and meeting my family and everything. And in my household, especially my grandma's, my father's mother house, it was everything about Spain, and that was very mentioned to me. And I would say to my friends, and I would say to well, my other side of the family, and even though they knew that it was correct, you always get a little bit mocked because
Mhm.
that's what happens with sort of like foreigners or
Right.
like people. I'd say, especially in the Mexican society, this is a thing. You get very mocked.
Mm.
If you say that you have a Spanish background, sort of like, you know how it's popular that in the States, when people from the States say that they're Scottish, they're Irish,
Right.
or they're like
Yeah.
Italian, they're whatever, but they've never been really. I mean, it was their great great grandfather. Well,
Exactly.
in Mexico, it's super similar. Like you've
Mhm.
got everybody's got a great grandfather from Spain, And very rarely somebody will have a great grandfather from Germany or somewhere else. But for me, it was real close. Like,
Right.
um, so I always used to get a little bit mocked when I mentioned it. Definitely it made me feel a little bit like people didn't get me, because to me it wasn't sort of like I didn't say it, or I never used to recognize my heritage as something to make myself bigger or anything, which is what most people do. Most people in Mexico, they want to be a little bit more exotic, right?
Right.
So hey, I also come from Europe, you know?
Mhm.
But to me, it was never about it. It was just a thing. Hey, I'm Spanish as well.
It was
And
just a fact.
well, it was just a fact, and it is just a fact. And,
Y-
um, yeah, it was a little bit awkward growing up with that, but it wasn't like I was seen as an outsider at all. I mean, if my close friends from Mexico hear this, they'll probably make fun of me. Just say something like, uh, "A ver, cabrón, claro que eres mexicano," which is like, uh, "Come on, motherfucker, you're obviously Mexican. Stop making a big deal out of it," you know. So yeah, that was that.
So, if you're a close friend from Luis Miguel when he was growing up, don't listen to that part.
Do
He's
not.
Mexican.
He's yeah. There, I'll get mucked up for that if somebody hears it. To be honest.
um, but yeah, that actually takes me to my next question. So I just want to go through the things you just said and trying to establish a little bit of a journey of a history here.
Yeah.
So then, Houston, Texas. You
Yeah.
were spending some time there as well, and um, I have traveled to the United States a couple of times. I've been there as a tourist. I also
Hmm.
spent 1 year in high school in Virginia.
Oh,
So I know a little bit about the United States, and I also know a little bit about their culture. And Texas is a very freedom loving state.
it's a very American state. Yes.
Yes. So maybe if you just want to share some experience you had, some things that shaped you growing up there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I lived in Houston because my dad lived in Houston and he worked for the oil industry,
Mm,
as 75% of people living in Texas,
right.
especially in Houston. The other 25% works at NASA. Uh, no, and it was like, for instance, it really was the American, like how people, especially like in Europe, make it out to be with the Americans. It was like that. My household had, I can't even tell you how many firearms we had in the house.
Right.
Like, and I'm not joking, probably a couple of handguns, more than 6, 7, 8 rifles. It was just, you know, that was a thing. Hunting is super big in Texas, so we'd go hunt every day. Well, not every day, every week.
Right.
Every week we'd hunt. I played American football, played baseball as well. And if I had to like tell people something, or something that the United States l- shaped me or showed me, is that everything you think you know about the United States is real. I would say that everything you've seen in the movies, it lives up to its name. To be
Yeah.
fair, it is a very um flashy place. It's not an exaggeration. The US for me, it was incredibly amazing. It was super fun. When I left Houston, I was 14 years old, and I it fucking gave me like PTSD for years that I couldn't go back to the States.
Mm,
Well, or that I had no business going. It's not that I couldn't go back, but I had no business. My father had left the States, and my mother lived in my mom lived in Mexico. My dad lives in Spain. So I had no business in the States anymore. But for me it was hard because everything was fucking amazing. And something that the States sort of somewhat like um showed me was the easier aspects of life. The States is a very easy place to live. everything is comfortable.
Yes.
Everything's super comfortable. There's it's one thing for another, it's tit for tat, but that sense of, I just want more things and newer things and cool things and just buy. That's something that's stayed with me up until now. And yeah, living in the States was a great experience. I don't know if this answers the questions or not, but
It it really does. Just one question for myself,
yeah.
actually, because I also played football when I was over there for a year,
Uh-huh.
and I love it to this day, and I keep watching it every weekend. And
Right.
I just wanted to know what position you play.
Oh, I started playing as a left tackle.
Oh, cool.
Then I moved to nose guard in defense. Then I moved to center. Then I played center and nose guard. And for a very brief moment, I also played middle linebacker, which was like the highlight of my life. That
That's
was
a cool
about it.
position to
That
play.
is that is a very cool position to play. Yes. No. That yeah. What about you?
I did play nose guard actually.
Look at that.
So
That's a very fun position as well.
yeah, they
Lots of
started me practicing O line, but then they actually put me on defensive line pretty quick.
yeah. Right on.
So yeah, I loved it.
Which year did you do them in the States?
It was 2011, 2012.
And what grade?
Uh, so it was officially 11th grade
Right?
uh, because what I did basically was I did a gap year in Germany. So I
Right.
told them I wouldn't get any credits for it. So
Mhm.
I told them I just want to have the experience of living there.
Right.
So there wasn't really a curriculum I had to do. So they put me in a bunch of classes. And when they heard I was German, they actually tried to put me in a lot of honors classes just so they could like
Yeah.
tell, oh, we have a student in honors classes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it was like 11th and 12th grade classes that they actually put me in.
Cool.
And yeah, it was amazing. It was so cool to be like with the seniors as well. And
Yeah, I reckon.
like you said, it is like the movies, like the high school experience, or
Yeah.
it is real. And
It is real. It is real. It's fucking amazing. Yeah. Miss it. Shout out to anybody from Houston, Texas that's hearing me. Yeah.
yeah. So, also another thing you just mentioned, is that mentality that I'm also a huge fan of. And I obviously know how it is in Germany, but I don't know how it is in Spain. So what you said, like that consumerism,
Mhm.
that also that kind of being proud of what you have, like someone
Yeah.
has a Ferrari and the Americans are like, oh wow, he got a Ferrari, good on him.
Exactly.
In Germany, it's not like that at all. It's like, oh, why does he have a Ferrari? Why does he need a car like that?
Mm.
So how is that in Spain? Like, how do the people in Spain view stuff like that?
Well, here's the thing. I would say that people in Spain, they they do feel, or they themselves, they do think that we live in a very consumerism world. So they think that the way that it is in Spain is very consumer centered,
Mm,
which in a way it sort of is, but it's still a child's game compared to the United States. Like it's
right.
nowhere near. And um, it really isn't like even close. Even though they think it is, it really isn't. Like
Yeah.
um because of the people that I work with and the people that I live with, I can tell you that there's people that I know that have lots of money and they do know how to spend it. And they do spend it in probably cars or, properties or maybe a good watch and this and that, which is what they would probably do in the States too, right?
Right.
You put your money back into that. But
Yeah.
in the States, you would like live in debt constantly.
Mm,
And I don't think that in Spain that happens as much. And even if like so in my mind it's like this. So the people that I know that have lots of money in Spain, they probably have like maybe their main households, and then they probably have like a holiday house on the beach or an apartment, whatever.
mhm.
Couple of cars, maybe, couple of nice watches. if you were to take that person and put it in a United States equivalent lifestyle, that would mean that they'd have 4 houses, 5 cars, 10 high-end watches.
Right.
It'd be so much more. So I would say that the society, somewhat to some degree of society, especially in the cities,
Mm,
it does translate a lot to it. Now I have other friends from smaller towns that don't behave like that at all. And they if it's not broken, don't fix it. And
yes.
if it still works, don't get a new one. And I love that mentality. But here's why I think that Spain 100% is better than the States or the North American lifestyle, because this also happens in Mexico a lot. Um, in the States or in Mexico or in your North American type of living, you would only hang out with people in your own um
Mm,
socioeconomical status. You wouldn't I mean, you could have friends that are richer or poorer than you wouldn't really hang out with them because it makes things awkward. Why? Because if you're rich in Mexico or in the US, you only want to go to expensive places.
mm.
You you
So just to make that clear, though, it is the same in Mexico as
Oh,
well?
it's 100% the same.
Oh,
A hundred
I didn't
percent.
know that.
Yes, yes. The influence that the United States of America has in Mexico is tremendous.
Oh,
Tremendous. The society imitates that part, that capitalism society, and that engrand yourself with money persona so much.
mm.
It's 100% the same.
Oh, wow.
100%. Actually, the posh people in Mexico,
Mm.
they the name that is given to them is whitezican.
Whites again.
Yeah, you're whitezican. Because that's how big it is. That's
That's
how
funny.
big the similarities is that they want to be that.
Right.
So they even refer to he's a whitezican. He's whitezican. So, but what I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
in that culture, the rich person only wants to go to rich person places,
Yeah.
and only and And for instance, a rich person will never go to a restaurant and spend $1 for a beer because then that restaurant is not for me. I want to go to a restaurant that charges $10 for a beer
Right.
because that is the place where I belong. Now in Spain, it doesn't work like that. Spain, you can be a millionaire, but you could just as well have friends that are blue collar workers. Why? Because hanging out with them will not make a big difference to you. You can be stupid rich and still go to your small bar, and that's normal as well. That is what I love and what I like. I have a shit ton of friends who are great friends among themselves, and the differences in their incomes is incredibly great, and that's what I love because
Yes.
then you your the size of your wallet does not determine who you are as a person. And I
Exactly.
think that's great. That's why I love Spain.
That is beautiful to hear from you because that's one of the things I love about Southern Europe as well. Because I spent 4 years in Portugal,
Mhm.
and that's something that immediately struck me, like just the familiarity of people in general. Like you go out on the street, and everyone immediately is your friend. Obviously, there's also some people that want you harm, but
Right.
they are everywhere. But in general, like the people are just so friendly and welcoming. And like you said,
Mhm.
there's we're all humans, right? We're all the
Right.
same. So there's no just hanging out with your groups of people, might it be money, where you were born, stuff like that. Doesn't matter. So that is how it is in Spain. Like,
Yeah. For the most part. You have exceptions here and there. Obviously.
right.
Um there's people who have a hard time uh having this conversation on both ends of the spectrum.
Mm,
But from what I've seen, especially compared to everywhere else in the world that I've lived in Spain, that is a place where there's less of a difference. Where there's less of a difference, you can go out with somebody that has a lot of money and somebody that doesn't have that much money, and will go to the same places
Yeah.
and will have the same fun. And for the most part, it won't be a tough conversation. It's not a taboo to say, I don't make enough money to do that. That's hey, or
Right.
like, if you've got like super posh friends
Mhm.
and they want to go on a travel and you say like, hey, I just don't have enough money to say that, it's not a big deal. It won't make people comfortable for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think that's super valid and I think that's great. And yeah, I would say that one of the best reasons why the society works best is that.
Yes. I love that. I really love that as well. Um, so before we go maybe into your professional journey a little bit as well, just because we talked about going out, I now
Mhm.
have a question that we also cover on this podcast a lot, which is food and
Good.
food recommendations.
Oh,
So since you, yeah, been in places where I think the food is really good, that being Mexico, that being Spain, that
yeah.
also being Texas. So I wonder if you have some recommendations for us, maybe from all these places, maybe from a country that I didn't mention that you visited once.
Mm.
Anything that you say someone needs to try this dish. It was amazing.
All right. Well, in Mexico, I'd say that everyone says tacos.
Right.
Right. Oh my God, the tacos, which is a fair approach. With tacos, I say the shittier and the filthier the place looks, the better.
Oh,
Yes. If you are a foreigner, you will get the shits, but that's part of the game. That's part of the game. Tacos are great and that's cool and all, but the best dish, in my opinion, in Mexico is mole.
mole.
Mole, Mole.
Right.
It's a very well, the mole actually it's a sauce that you
Mm,
traditionally put on chicken,
right.
and then you eat that sauce. That sauce is super rich in spices. There's lots of types of mole.
Mm,
Um, but just a good mole is to my mind, the most Mexican good, just unique dish. Just unique. Anywhere, if I'm talking about my home city, which is San Luis Potosí, one of my favorite restaurants overall is El México de Frida,
mhm.
which translates to as Frida's Mexico. Actually, the owner is my best friend's mom. That was
Oh,
just a coincidence. That was a coincidence. We became friends years and years later after I've tried that. That's been my favorite restaurants ever since I was a kid.
right.
Um, yeah, I would say that that's a place that I recommend a lot. Um, Unpopular or well, just ironic enough, my favorite restaurant in Mexico City is a Spanish restaurant.
Oh,
It's El Club Asturiano or the Asturian Club.
mhm.
It's in El Paseo de la Reforma, which is the biggest or the most emblematic street in Mexico City.
Mm.
And it's just a great Spanish food restaurant. It's probably one of the best Spanish food restaurants in the world,
Oh,
including Spain. It's just
oh, wow.
that good. Now in Spain, there's a couple of places that I love. In Madrid, my favorite restaurant is the Arroceria de San James, which is St. James's
Ricery?
ricery,
Roastery?
exactly. Which is a very posh restaurant, but I would say that it's worth it. A great place to eat. And where I live, which is Viella in the Val de Aran county, or well, technically it's the Val de Aran Shire, because it's a comarca.
Mm,
Um, there is a restaurant called Era Coquela, which uh, which is just great value for money. It's my favorite restaurant to go and eat and have a great meal. It's just good cuisine, good wine, good service, just everything. So There you go. Four places. And in Houston,
Oh yeah,
Houston,
let's
Houston,
go.
Houston's got a lot of staples, a lot of international cuisine, but Houston's in Houston is great.
Hmm.
The restaurant Houston's, it's
Oh, it's
perfect.
called Houston.
Yeah, it's called Houston's. It's a great place. Now the other places that we used to go a lot are food chains. So like
Right.
because well, it's America after all. So
Yeah.
Fogo de Chao and PF Chang's, and I remember very fondly going to these places. Johnny Rockets, the best hamburgers. Have you had Johnny Rockets
I
hamburgers?
haven't.
Oh, they're amazing. Also, Food Rockers, amazing hamburgers. So hands down, those are some of the best places in Houston to eat in my experience. So yeah,
And Houston's probably been a steakhouse, I
yes,
suppose, because it's
yes,
Texas.
exactly. Yeah, pretty much. And yeah,
Very cool.
great job. Yeah,
Yeah, that was actually very resourceful. Thank you for that.
well, of
So,
course.
if anyone, probably most of the listeners are most probable to go to Spain at some point, so they can use those tips and get some good food there.
Hopefully.
All right. So, you also mentioned your career a little bit,
Hmm.
which is you became a lawyer and now you're a ski instructor. So before I want to ask you about that change, obviously, becoming a lawyer is something, at least in Germany, and I suppose in Spain, where you probably studied to be a lawyer.
Well, I officially have a degree from La Universidad Autónoma de San Luis Potosí, which is a Mexican university.
Oh, okay.
But I did part of my studies in Spain as well in La Universidad de Cantabria. So I've got experience in both.
Oh, that's also very
But
cool.
what were you going to say about Germany?
So, because I know in Germany, because actually one of my ideas when I was like, what am I supposed to do, was becoming a lawyer as well.
Hmm.
At some point, because I love the TV show Suits.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. Yes.
But yeah, just like it seemed very interesting to me at that point. That's like an interesting field of studies, like just because we are basically all governed by the law. So why
Hmm.
not understand it more and
Yeah.
really get into it? Um, but why I eventually didn't do it is because you have to study like a very long time. In Germany, you have to study 6 years before you're able to, well, basically take the bar exam. So it's like
Hmm.
the equivalent to the bar
Yeah.
exam in the United States. And then you still have to do some internships and you're still not a full
Full on lawyer. Yeah.
lawyer. So that is a very long
Y-
way to get there.
Yes.
So, yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about what was your why did you want to become a lawyer and how did you motivate yourself and keep yourself motivated through that journey?
Well, great question. I think that I've funnily enough, growing up, I always knew that I was going to study law.
Oh,
That's something that I grew up knowing ever since I was a kid. I think the if I look back when I was 5 or 6 years old, maybe I thought that I wanted to be a scientist and studying something around math
mhm.
because I could math seemed easy and logical back then. But then when we started multiplying, math got hard. So it was right around 7 years old that I thought to myself that I wanted to be a lawyer because the pathways that the law gives to you are a lot. Um you obviously have the lawyer, the actual practitioner, but you could also be a politician, and that called to me so much.
Yeah.
And everything that had to do with working in public service, law works as well because so and basically the more that I got to it, the more that I thought of myself as a lawyer. Now, to be fair, I don't like this term, but I do have like somewhat of a legacy family. My mom is a lawyer. My big sister is a lawyer,
Oh,
and I am a lawyer as well. And when I got out of high school, I wanted to go to the best law school in Mexico, which is in Mexico City, and I was scheduled to go and take the exam, but I had to get emergency surgery.
oh,
And when I told my doctor about it, he said you can't leave the city. And when I told the school about it, they said, "Well, tough shit, man. Like, okay, we'll see you in a year." And so I got enrolled in my uh, regional state university, and it wasn't like a crazy hard to get in, but it was hard enough. You had to take this exam. There were about 1,500 applications maybe that year, and there's only like 300 selected.
yeah.
So it's only about 1 out of 5 people will get in.
Yeah.
Yes, more or less. And uh, well, I got in there and I started studying. And for me, going through law school was, I'm not going to say easy. I'm going to say it was fun.
Really?
Law school was fucking fun. Law school was fucking amazing for me. It was so incredible to go every day and learn good and fun stuff. And every single time that I look back into the law, I feel so fun. And I feel this very crisp and nice warmth about the love that I have for the law. It's almost a shame that I cannot combine my love for ski instructing and my love for the law at the same time. And it was just nice and easy because I was very highly motivated. Um,
Yeah.
every semester I had something to do. So, for instance, my first 3 semesters, it was all about having good grades, and because that way I could get into a good international program. So I developed great grades and I got into a great international program. And I went to La Universidad de Cantabria in Santander, Spain for a year. And that was amazing. And I had all sorts of classes and I learned so much about European and Spanish law. Then I came back to Mexico and I started working in this law firm with a great lawyer. Um, and I learned a lot and I was very driven and very passionate and I just wanted to do more. And everywhere it seemed like it was great success everywhere. And if I look back, it was a time of my life where law school was, funnily enough, easy. It really was easy. Everything, I'm not saying that I didn't have to put the work in, but w- when I left law school, I realized that in life, when you put the work in, you don't necessarily have success, which is somewhat of hard. It's a hard reality, but it's a reality. Putting hard work doesn't mean that you get success. And for me, when I was in law school, I put in the hard work, but I was successful. I was very successful, and I look back at it, and I had the best times of my life in law school. I'll forever be a lawyer, and I'm very proud to say it. And yes, yeah. Well, that was my law school experience. Yes.
I love that answer. That kind of made me, for a little bit there, I was like, damn, why didn't I study law? But that sounds great because that actually shows you that you did the right thing. Like, didn't sound like you doubted it at all at some point, but that's what
No.
a lot of people aspire, right? To have a vision and actually enjoy the path there and being like, yeah, I want to do this. I need to get this goal and just enjoying putting the work in and
Yeah.
don't make it feel like work, but actually
Exactly.
enjoying it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. As we also uh, discover a lot of philosophical questions on here, you said something that I have to ask you about more. You
What's that?
said in life, you discover that if you put in work, it doesn't necessarily mean you're successful,
Yeah.
which I agree with. But how do you cope with that reality? How do you like, oh, this is how it is?
Well, I'll tell you how I found that out. It
Yeah,
was with my other career choice, which is skiing.
right.
Now, it's skiing is everything that the law is not. In my life, I grew up in a very um law familiar environment, and everything about the law made sense. And it was everything about the law was natural and came natural to me. Skiing is something that I learned to love as an adult because when I and I'm doing what's this called?
So
For the no wait, it's like air quotations.
air quotations,
Yes, so
yes.
I'm doing air quotations. I where I air quotations learned how to ski was in Winter Park, Colorado, when I was a kid. But I learned to love skiing where when I was an adult, and everything that I've gained in my skiing career, I've had to work hard and I've failed a lot, a lot. I've failed so much in my skiing career, and I've realized step number two. I've realized that you don't necessarily get success when you put in the hard work, but you will get the success if you don't quit.
Yes.
So for me, it all came because so in Spain, the way that you become a ski instructor is you have to pass this access test, which is basically they take a run or a competitor, they take a racer,
Uh,
they draw up a race course, and the racer goes through that with the professional. Well, he's not professional, but he's international ranked. They
So he is quite good.
well, he's quite good. I think he's a racer in the International Skiing Federation with less than 100 face points, which is somebody that's probably at a national competition, a national championship level ish.
Yeah.
Um, they'll take that person, put him in the race course. He does the race course, and then the applicants. I think for the males, it's 10% that they give on top of that, and
Mm,
for the females, if is 15. I can't remember it. Google it, and
that
I
to me doesn't sound like a lot. Just
w-
10%.
well, it depends a lot on who's in the race course and how difficult they're making it out to be, but
Mm,
lots of people that come from the racing background and have years and years in skiing. Is he a spy? Is
right.
he a spy? For me, it was hard. I
Mm,
failed the first time I did that. The second time, I barely passed. I went and did my first course of ski instructing, and I failed the first exam. And Oscar Nieto, which was one of the trainers for that course, and one of the trainers that's influenced me so much in skiing, Oscar Nieto and Wilson Castet, but Oscar Nieto was the one that told me that I had failed. And I said, oh, well, I'm going to have to work harder. And I remember it. He said, it's not about working hard because you've worked hard. Sometimes you're just not that good. Not yet.
right.
And that's when it resonated to me that working hard is not necessarily success. You can work hard and not get successful, but you got to keep working. That's the thing. You got to keep working, keep working, keep working. And that's how I realized that working hard is not equal to success. Not straight away, not in the first try, not necessarily.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's one of the things that keeps a lot of people from actually achieving their dream as well. Because they put in the hard work for a year, maybe two, maybe three, but then they give up.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, sometimes we are just not good enough yet. And some people, they don't accept it. And they're like, no, but I did all this work. I'm never going to that good. They just give
Uh,
up.
Exactly. That's something that you said, and I love, because for the majority of things in life are skills,
Yes.
are abilities. And something that I actually learned, one of the first things that's probably mentioned in the first class that I did while doing my ski instructor's courses was they asked us, what is skiing? And we all gave out different definitions and this and that and that. And skiing is an ability. And an ability is an activity that, number one, can be learned.
Right.
And and something that can be learned, as hard as it is, it's something that you can perfect. Now,
Right.
some people have a natural gift to it, and some people have learned that earlier in their lives than you. And
Mm.
that translates a lot to us as adults, right?
Right.
Mm. But um it all depends on how much time do you want to spend on learning and how much time do you want to invest in that. I'm certain that there's not one thing that if you're not loyal to it, you won't get it. But you have to keep being on loyal and just stick it out. And when you look at all the successful stories about the very successful people, most of them were in the shithole for lots of years.
Yes.
Most of them were have like struggles most of years. And I'm talking people that are very successful. Like you don't have to look very far down the road. Like you take the Jeff Bezos and you take the uh what's his name? Elon Musk, and you take
Yes.
the Michael Jordans, and they struggled. They struggled. They weren't superstars from the beginning. And you don't have to get to a place that you're Michael Jordan of Jeff Bezos to be successful. Obviously not. But you can be very much successful in whichever part of your life you want to be. Um, but you still have to put in the work in, not quit.
Yeah. It's
And
being comfortable with not being like successful for a while. Like you said, like these people, they kind of said, okay, this is what I have to endure. I
yeah,
have to like sleep on mattresses. I need to sleep in my car for a while, like whatever it might have been for different people, to say, I'm on this path. And I know that it's going to be a long, hard time and a long, hard journey. Yeah, you just have to
for
persevere.
for me, if you know how it feels, it's like, so the way that it works in Spain is we've got three levels of ski instructing, right? And technically speaking, this once you've done the second level, you're a fully certified ski instructor. The
Right.
third level will only improve or will only give you the capacities to, number one, be an Olympic and national coach,
Mm,
and number two, be a ski examiner or trainer. But technically speaking, a level two ski instructor in Spain is a fully certified ski instructor that can take any level on any type of terrain on up to the most highest level of skiing below high performance training. And so when I finished my level two, what I felt was relief.
right.
I felt happiness for sure. I was happy. I was excited, and everybody that was with me that night can remember it because I bought every single person that I knew alcohol without limitations. I
Let's celebrate.
let's celebrate every single person that I knew that they got free alcohol from me. And it wasn't like I was hiding it. I was like, what do you need? What do you want? What do you? I was just
Right.
buying everybody that I knew beer after beer after beer, glass of wine, and just everything, right? Um, but to be honest, what I felt was relief because for me, up until that point, I had failed so much, and that failure just felt like an itch. It just felt like something that made me feel shitty, made me feel uncomfortable from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, because I knew that I was in an industry where I was failing,
Right.
and I was in a path where I was failing. And the moments that I thought to myself, like, shit, why am I here? I'm like, if I go back to lawyering, I know I'll be successful from moment one. From moment one, that was my easy path. And uh, that's the shitty part. Knowing that you're doing something where until you make it, you're a failure. For me, it wasn't that I was a failure, but I was like, I'm not successful. Not successful, and I'm doing something that I'm not succeeding at. But that's the thing. You're only a failure until you turn it into a success. And the moment you turn it into a success, it's not a failure story anymore. So all of those years, I look back on them and I changed them. If I had stopped before getting my certification, those years would have been a fucking failure. They
Yes.
would have accounted for nothing. But right now, I look back and all of those years that I woke up and I felt like shit, they are part of my success story. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a successful ski instructor because my career is barely beginning. But what I'm telling you is that I wanted to become a ski instructor. And because right now I finished that, and officially, according to the Ministry of Education in Spain, I have a degree as a sports technician specialized in alpine skiing. I,
Yeah.
I am one. So, in the matter of setting out the goal to be a ski instructor, that's been a success. I can check that out. But for a lot of time, for years, it was a failure. It wasn't there.
That's a great story. I really love that story. Thank you for sharing.
Oh,
And
thank you for hearing.
of course, one question, and maybe I have actually two questions, but maybe I can make it into one.
Yeah.
Um, so what was actually the motivation? So you said you've been a lawyer, you've done all that, you've done all the work there as well. You went to grad school, law school, whatever, and you became a lawyer, you're a successful lawyer. And then something must have happened that you said, I just want to pursue this skiing career. And then the second question, that
Mhm.
you also said, all those years you were failing, you were like, I can't just go back because not a lot of people have something to go back to. So you
Yeah.
had that. You already had an established career and you could go back to it any second. So yeah, I guess what is the motivation for you to really keep at it, not go back and really pursue the skiing?
Well, first question. It was I was actually in my first year in law school when I started skiing again. And the moment that my dad he knew that I hated skiing because up until that moment I fucking hated skiing. And he said, "Hey, how about we take a trip, a skiing trip, just a couple of days. We'll go to the Pyrenees. Um, how would you like it?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do that." Honestly, I just said yes because I just wanted to go on holiday.
Yeah.
I was like, well, at least we'll go, to a nice hotel for a couple days and change of scenery, see some fucking snow, whatever.
Yeah.
And but when we got to the resort, I'll never forget it. It was the day before. We got there late in the evening, and we were going to get the rentals. We went to the store, and as we're entering the store to get the rentals, there was just something about it that I fell in love with skiing instantly. Instantly in that moment and wholeheartedly. Fucking smell. I can smell the wax. As I'm sitting here telling you this, I can smell the wax from the store. And I know it sounds corny and romantic and whatever, but there was just something about it that made me just like fell in love with skiing. And every single time that we went skiing, it was more and more attractive and more attractive and more attractive. And one day I thought to myself, like, if I could just like live on this, because holiday skiing started to become like it's something that I would look for the entire year. I would think about
Mm.
the entire year. And I would say, like, can you imagine if you could do this like forever? Like not just 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 days a year, but like forever. How my life would be amazing.
Mm.
How much would that cost? And then I said, well, if I make my living in the same place that I want to be, which is the snow, then the money wouldn't matter because my way of living would be like if I just want to get money to come here, then why don't I just spend the time here and then money will just be a secondary thing? That was my
Yeah.
logic. And so one summer, it was 2018. One summer, I was actually living in Winchester in the UK. I was a summer camp instructor there, and I just couldn't stop about thinking about skiing. And I said to myself, well, if every day for the next year I think about becoming a ski instructor every day,
Right.
then I'll know it's not just a phase. Then I'll know that it's something worth pursuing. So that year went by, and I remember looking back to myself that summer of 2019, and I said, it's been a year. And I've thought about it every single day. Now I have to do it. I have to do it. But I still had like at least 2.5 years to go in law school.
Mm.
And I said, well, I can't stop now. Gotta finish law school.
Right.
I gotta finish. So I stuck through it. The last semester was fucking horrible, if I'm being fair. Number one, it was COVID, so I had to do it in the computer, which was shit.
Yeah.
Number two, because I had already quit my job in the law firm, and everybody else was getting on with their lives as lawyers, and I was about to
And
start new life.
right.
And so it was hard, but that's how I fell in love with skiing, and that's how I made the change. And what was the other thing?
Basically keeping that motivation as well when you said
Oh
all
yeah,
these years.
throughout those years. Well, I'm a very stubborn person, and I was just talking to with Charlie about this. Charlie is another fellow ski instructor that you've met, and
Yeah.
I told him, and we're reminiscing about how ski instructors are very obsessive people,
Mm.
especially ski instructors that were not born in the mountain, because we're obsessive or obsessed with skiing, and we've literally changed our lives to accommodate that
Right.
and to pursue it. So we're obsessive, and we're obsessive with everything. I hate hearing no. I hate hearing that I can't do something.
Mm.
I just it makes my skin boil. It does, it does. And so one time when I was in law school, I have a law school friend that her parents were ski instructors, and I mentioned that one dream of mine was to be a ski instructor, and she sort of like laughed and said like, "Oh, come on, you'd never be a ski instructor." And I took
Oh
that fucking
wow.
personal.
I
And
would too. What kind of friend is that?
well, she wasn't really my friend; she was more like an acquaintance.
Mm.
But I can still remember it because I said, "I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna show every fucking body."
Right.
And then I went up until I went to the toughest formation center in Spain, which is ETEBA, which is Escuela Esportiva. Wait, Escuela, fuck, wait, Escuela de Técnicos Esportivos de la Valdearan, which is probably the toughest place to get your certification in.
Mm.
But I just wanted to be no doubt that I could perform like that. And I failed so much because it's the toughest place to get your
Right.
certification from. But when I got my diploma, I just wanted to say, there's
Yeah.
no question. Nobody will question my ability
Yeah.
because I've worked through it. And my motivation throughout failing is that I knew that if I stop, I would be a failure. And I said, I can't stop. No, I cannot stop. I don't care if it takes me 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. That doesn't matter. Here's the thing. If I go to bed and I'm uncomfortable because I'm failing, that's livable. But I don't know how I could wake up one morning knowing that I fully failed at something. And I was just talking to Charlie about this, and I said, I think that's why I manage failure so poorly, especially failure that's out of my hands. Because in life,
Mm.
there's lots of things that's out of your control. Most of the
Yes.
things are out of your control. That's why I don't think that I cope with failure good. I'm a very apprehensive person when it comes to failure. And failure with deals, failure with, for instance, romantic relationships, failure with sports related failure. It's just something that haunts me. I don't like to fail. And that's why I stuck with it, because I don't like to fail. I don't. If you see me starting something, I have to see it through. That was my motivation.
Yes. There's actually a question I want to ask as well. I hope it's not uncomfortable, but because it's a beautiful thing, like you said, if it pertains to things that we can control.
Right.
Because you fail and you say, I can just keep going. I can invest all my time, all my energy into doing this. But as you already mentioned as well, there's so many things that we can control.
Yeah.
So how do you or how do you aim to deal with these things? Because at the end of the day,
They
we
exist.
they exist, and it would just be so horrible to see any person just suffer from that, because that's something I learned pretty quickly, is to not let that affect me at all. Obviously, it's still a learning curve. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to improve every day, but I do feel like I got it managed pretty good. So how's your personal approach to that, to things where you see, okay, I just cannot change whatever I do. I cannot change these things. They're just there.
Well, I used to struggle a lot with it because um obviously it's real hard to turn the switch on and off. And what I mean by that is that competitor switch, that stubbornness switch that gives you success. There's some stuff that you should always leave it on. There's some stuff that you should always have it off. For
Right.
instance, your career. Your career is one of those things where you should always have that uh competitor switch on. You always should be pushing. You always should be going for it, giving it your 100%. If there's a no, turn it into a yes. Always.
Right.
That's my take on it. Go, go, go. Don't take no for an answer. The hard part is letting go of the stuff that you should let go. And for me, finding those things and realizing that it's not even failing. Because
Right.
you have there's nothing that you could have done. Like I
Exactly.
mean, sometimes it is like, oh, I probably fucked up the situation a little bit. Probably would have gone better. But so about last year, I started embracing a lot of stoicism, philosophy, and there's a quote that I love to remind myself. It's a Marcus Aurelius quote. Wherever something hard happens to me, something that makes me feel bad, which is everything that happens to you has beginning to happen since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And shit is inevitable. Those types of things are inevitable. And if they are inevitable, then that means that you get to like experience some pain about it. That's fine. Pain makes us human, and it's fair enough that we feel uncomfortable emotions. We're not robots. I think that if you get to feel the good shit, you also get to feel the bad shit. But you shouldn't beat yourself over it. So usually when I'm like struggling with something, I'll just be like, hey, but you know what? It happens and that's it. And usually opportunities and all types of opportunities, job opportunities, love opportunities, um, friendship, relationships, etc., etc., etc. They come and go. They come and go. And you gotta think about that. When you think about the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. When I think about the failures that I've had in the past, they didn't matter. Like right now, looking back at them, they didn't matter. They didn't, like, the impact that they have in my life right now are marginal. When I
Yeah.
look back, they don't make me feel bad. They felt that back then, but now they don't. And so, or for instance, like with love, I've suffered, as a lot of people, I've suffered a lot. I'm a very passionate person and I'm very stubborn. So, um, I've suffered
That's
a
a
lot.
good combination for love.
That's a shitty combination. And I've suffered a lot. But one of the things that I always find like, well, in the grand scheme of things, that my past relationships, they've served me. I've valued them. I'm very grateful that I've met the great people that I've met in the past, and I don't look back with sourness on any of them. And my mom had a great quote about love that was like, relationships are like a bus. If you by any chance miss one or get off, or it doesn't come, good thing is that if you hang in there for a while in the bus stop, another one will come.
That's a very good quote. I like that one.
So yeah, it happens with opportunities as well. And it happens with shit that we cannot work out. How many stuff hasn't worked out? Like, even looking back, the university that didn't take me back then when I was about to start law school was a low blow, but there was nothing that I could do about it. What did I do? I picked myself up, enrolled myself in a great school in my alma mater, and I crushed it. And that was
Yeah.
fucking great. And everything else in my life should look like that. It should look, because why? Because it's a failure until it isn't. And
Yeah.
then it instantly and forever becomes a success. The moment you turn a failure into a success, it will be a success forever. But you got to do that change. And the only way you do that change, is if you still keep on rolling, keep on rolling, keep on rolling.
That is such a great way to look at it. And yeah, I feel like that's the one thing that in the moment is always really hard, but we just with experience, with life experience, we just need to remind ourselves like in 10 years it doesn't matter anymore. In 5 years it probably
Yeah.
doesn't even matter anymore. But obviously it is easier said than done because in that moment it
Oh,
feels like my whole world just imploded, you know?
yeah.
But yeah, in 5 years
Yeah.
it doesn't matter
It
anymore.
doesn't fucking matter. The amount of stuff that we I that's great reflection that my dad told me. I was going through some hard stuff. Springtime last year. I was going through some hard stuff, life changing stuff. And I went back to my dad for a while, and he told me like, whatever happens in 6 months' time, the things that right now are making you feel like this will not make you feel like that. And the problems that you have right now will not be the same problems that you have in 6 months. So and my dad told me, if you have a problem and you can look into your future and in 6 months that problem is still there, then fine. You get to cry. If
Mhm.
it's a life altering problem, fine. But if it's something that's not gonna impact your life in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, then that's just part of life.
Yeah.
It really isn't even a problem. It's just part of life. Because life is that. Is I also think that there's no good and there's no bad. It's just stuff. It's stuff that happens. Our reactions are good or bad. The
Yes.
shit that happens is just shit that happens. There's no good or bad shit. It's just is. Hey, I failed my exam. Well, okay, it's just something that happened. What did I do with it? Hey, my business didn't work out. Well, it was just shit that happened. How many times does something not have to work? It's not, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing sometimes. It's a good thing when you give a good reaction. when you give a good reaction. If you give a bad reaction, then it'll be a bad thing. And that applies to everything, even death. Death is the only part of life that
It's,
we know certainly.
yeah,
It's the only
yeah,
certainty in life. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't feel shitty, but that means that we'll have to react to it. Might as well react in a positive manner
yeah,
because that shit is happening. It is. I mean, if we know something for a fact, is that everybody's gonna fucking die. Everybody that I love will die.
yeah,
So I might as well get something good out of it. That's my go-to in failure. My go-to in failure is that if you're going to fail, then you better get something out of it. Because if when you're successful, it's successes are cool and all, but you don't learn shit from them. It's
yeah,
hard. It's hard to learn from a success. It's hard. It's easy, and it's way easier to learn from a mistake. When you're successful, nobody wins a championship and then the next day wakes up and goes work out. You win a championship, you go to an after party, then you take a wake up.
yeah,
If you fail, if you lose, if you drop the ball, the, if your correct reaction will be to get on top of that horse instantly. And it just is like that. Just is like that. That's the way that I see it, and that's how I approach every single thing in my life.
that is a very beautiful philosophical way to live life, and I agreed with every single thing you just said. I really like that. Um, Maybe one question because that's something dear to my heart. Just out of curiosity, is there
Mhm.
also a spiritual belief that gives you strength as well, or is it purely philosophical? So, for me, for example, I believe that everything happens for a reason. So it's basically the spiritual equivalent to saying, okay, it depends on how we react to the things. I'm just saying, okay, something happens. Maybe it was a sign for me to do something different, stuff like that. So do you also have a spiritual belief like that that guides you in your life?
Definitely, definitely. So I think that I'm a very small piece in a game.
Hmm.
I'm a very small piece in the universe, and that makes me a little bit at ease with the weight of life. But at the same time, I'm also the only piece I'm playing, so all of my focus should be on me,
Hmm.
which circles back to me.
Yeah.
My faith is very much agnostic at this point. I grew up Christian Catholic or Catholic slash Protestant, and I struggled with finding my place and finding God, and I just started having lots of doubts around it. But when I opened up my mind and my heart, and I realized, like, hey, um, if I am a good person, then good things will happen in my life. And I started to dive a lot into philosophy,
Mhm.
and lots of stuff made sense, and lots of stuff didn't make so much sense. But to me, it's all about um being a good person for society and being a good person for myself will always result in happiness. If I have to say that one piece of literature has influenced my life fondly and deeply is The Republic by
Yeah.
Plato. I've read that book several times, and I there's another quote by Marcus Aurelius which I love, which is that you should go to philosophy not in a way to feel pretentious, but as a patient who feels sick and goes to the doctor. And to me, it always well, not always, but it's been like that for the last couple of years now. Whenever I feel like, how can I solve this? I always go straight to my philosophical standpoints. I'm a huge fan of Plato. I'm a huge fan of Seneca, and I'm a huge fan of Marcus Aurelius. Huge, and I'll just dive back into them and dive back into people of great success. Um, I unpopular opinion, but don't shoot me. I I love Napoleon as well.
Oh,
Um, I learn a lot about him too, and yeah, it's just I read them and I read them and I read them and they all circle back. They all circle back. If I'm a good person to me, I'm a good person to you. We live in a society, we coexist. And hey, if there's God at the end of the day, I reckon I'm going to heaven, man. Because honestly, though, I'm not an asshole. Dude, I behave like Jesus Christ. Like at the end of the day, that's one of the struggles that I had with Christianity and Catholicism. I was just like, dude, you're all preaching that we should behave like Christ. Nobody in this fucking place is
is
behaving like
even
Christ.
doing it.
Nobody's doing it, man. Nobody's turning the other cheek. Nobody's being humble. Nobody's just getting on with their lives and being happy and good. Because to me, that's what Christ was all about. Like, one of the things that I love about, uh, obviously, I take off from Catholicism, but here's here's why I think that we mess up religion so much. But like Christ, also, I look after him a lot. Um, you know the story about the fish and the wine miracle, right? Where Christ went
Yeah.
to a wedding, he turned water into wine,
Yeah.
or he multiplied the fishes
Mhm.
and he turned the water into wine, right?
Yes.
So, um, actually, in the beginning of the story, Christ goes with Mary, with the Virgin Mary, to this wedding. And Christ was off-duty, man. He wasn't acting like the Son of God all the time. Most of the time, actually, because when you look at the Bible, um, we know a little bit about the infancy of Christ. We know nothing of his teenage years. The only thing we know is when Christ went to when well he split up in the temple. He That was before his bat mitzvah because Joseph thought that he was with Mary and Mary thought that he was Joseph. So we know about him up until 12 years old, and then we don't know nothing until his early 30s.
Mm,
So we really don't know anything about Christ. For most of his life, Christ was just a good Samaritan, man. That's what we need. But coming back to the story, Christ was going to this wedding and he was just hanging out, and Mary was the one that came up to him and said, "Hey, can you do something about it?" And to me, in my mind, when I read that story, Christ was like, "Oh, fine." But that's such a cool thing because he didn't want it to be the center of attention.
mm.
And he was a fucking son of God in this ideology, in this theology. He was
Yeah.
the son of God. I think that's how we should fucking live our lives. Just be good people. Help when you can, but just be good people, man. Be good people to yourself. Stay true to what you want to do out of life, and don't fuck anybody else in the process. That's it. And then everything else will come to you. That's my spirituality about it.
I really love your answers today because they just answer so many questions that I would have asked. But one of them being, what would you tell people is the most important thing to do in life? But you just answered that
Yeah.
perfectly. Um, so maybe to go into a little bit of a different topic, I do have a question that I don't think we discussed yet. That I'm very interested in what you have to say about it.
Mhm.
So did you ever in your life think about legacy? Is that something you think about what you want to leave behind, or how do you even interpret the term of legacy? What does that mean to yourself? Person.
Well, yeah, I've that was a thing that I thought about a lot when I was younger. Legacy. I wanted to impact the world a lot. when I was a kid, I wanted to be president or, um, ambassador, something big. And then I wanted to be a writer for a while. I actually wrote a novel. Um,
Oh, wow.
and I thought that that was also going to be my legacy. But nowadays, um, I don't think I want to spend. I don't think I want to think about that because,
Fair.
um, although it would be nice, although it would be nice, I think that right now is the most important moment in history, and I want to focus my energy on right now. And I want to focus my energy on being a good human being right now. And ultimately, the search for legacy, the search for leaving something behind would be cool. But um, my my life will do the talking.
Yeah.
My life will do the talking, and there's always legacy in humankind. You know what makes humankind different from the rest of the animals?
Oh, consciousness?
Yeah, our consciousness to a degree, but um, dolphins have consciousness as well. They're self-aware that they're creatures, and they're self-aware of their surroundings, and they're self-aware of how they can exploit that. So I wouldn't necessarily say consciousness. One of the things that we've recollected that is only true to ourselves is collective learning. We have the ability
Mhm.
to pass on. That's why
Mhm.
we've get knowledge. Whereas
Yeah.
a dog or a dolphin, they have to go through their entire lives to learn.
Learn by themselves.
And then if they have a son, they cannot teach them. They have to learn. We get collective learning.
Mhm.
And with collective learning, I think that I'm carrying out the legacy of lots of people with me. People in my family, people that are my friends, people that I don't necessarily know and they don't know me, for instance, Plato and Mark. I'm carrying their legacy as well.
Yeah.
Um, at the end of the day, if I've influenced someone that's out there in the world, then that's my legacy going on as we're speaking right now. And that'd be cool. It'd be cool to affect people in a way that they live their lives a little bit better. That'd be a cool legacy to have. But if we're being honest, I don't like to spend my time thinking about it. I I like to live right now.
And yet you gave another great answer to the question.
Ah,
So, um, maybe to close it out, because we covered a lot of very interesting things, and I'm really grateful. It was
no,
such a
thank you
good
for the
conversation.
opportunity.
One last question,
Yeah.
because we already heard that you had a lot of goals and dreams in your life that you have achieved in different points of your life. So, right now, the Luis Miguel is sitting in front of me. What would you say right now is the dream that is governing your life? Just to put it into words, what is your dream right now?
Mm. Are we talking about like uh, um a material dream, or are we talking more like an idea?
Probably the latter.
Right. Well, I'd like I'd like my dream to be to feel to wake up and feel complete, which coincidentally enough, I don't know if it'll ever happen. Because and I mean, when I look back in my life, there's lots of things that I set out to do and to become, and I've done them, and I always find new shit. And the fact that I find new shit is always constantly making me feel incomplete. I would like to that one day wake up and feel like I am complete. And I would say that that day will come. I feel like one day I will wake up and feel like I've lived a life that's worthwhile. I feel like that's my dream. There's a very good quote that says that just as much as it's a Marcus Aurelius one, I think. Just as much as a well worked day brings good sleep, a well worked life brings a good death. And to me, that's my dream. I would like to be on my fucking deathbed, not feeling relieved, feeling relieved. You know, I told you that when I got my level 2 degree, and now that we're being open about it. So um this year I won an award here in NZ Ski. I won
Oh,
ski instructor of the season, actually.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
Congrats, man.
thank you, thank you. But do you know how I felt when I won it? I didn't feel joy. I felt really I felt like fine, I can relax, because if I didn't win this, I don't know what I would do. I would I I I
Right.
need to get it.
Like, I need to be
I
the
need to be
best.
there. I need to be the best. And I would like to one day wake up 75 years old, all fucking wrinkly, cannot move. Arthritis everywhere, just like, and look at my life and say, cool, I can rest. That's, you know how when you set out to do, like, you know what I love to do? I love to do nothing. I love to wake up and do nothing, but I can't. Because in my mind, I have to grind. I have to go and work out. I have to go and make money. I have to go and be successful. But sometimes, like when you get good achievements, when you complete something, when you get an award, when you get what you set out to become, then you get that brief period where you're like, today I can relax. I've earned it.
Yeah.
So the day that the season ended, the next day, I can relax. I've earned it. The day that the season ended, oh, I can spend money. I've earned it. Um, I can eat this hamburger. I've earned it. I can do nothing but watch movies all day because I've earned
Yeah.
it. I My dream would be to wake up and knowing that I've earned it. I've earned my life. I've earned my rest, and just chillax. Because right now it's fucking exhausting. Okay, but hey, the alternative is dying. And so keep on grinding, and that's my dream. Wake up and knowing that I've earned it.
Beautiful. I had an idea you were going somewhere like this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, well, again, I am really grateful for this conversation. I
No,
enjoyed
thank
it a
you,
lot. Of
Mike. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for listening to me, for
course.
inviting me, and I wish you nothing for the best for this summer and for your stay here at Tahuna and for your stay here in Queenstown. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. All the best to you as well back in Spain and wherever life's gonna take you. So, yeah, enjoy the rest of the evening, man, and bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.